After a 3-week unplanned pit stop in San Francisco, it was finally time for us to move on. Unfortunately, the majority of our time in San Francisco was spent either working on the boat, chasing down boat parts to do more work on the boat, or restocking the boat with provisions. When we finally untied the lines and made our way towards the Golden Gate Bridge, it felt like quite an accomplishment. With the Golden Gate Bridge in our rear-view mirror and the big blue ocean in front of us, it felt like we were back in cruise mode. From San Francisco to our next destination of Half Moon Bay was a pretty easy day sail. We were both pretty happy to be moving again. The entrance to Half Moon Bay is just on the other side of those giant golf balls. Anchoring in Half Moon Bay meant that we were actually cruising again. And since we were cruising, we needed to get our dinghy back into service and off of the deck. The next morning, we woke up to something we haven't seen in quite a while. Blue skies and warm sun. Half Moon Bay is one of the best protected anchorages on the entire west coast of the United States. It's almost perfect. It's so great that even some dolphins would come in now and then for a visit. For a couple of sailors from Seattle, getting to San Francisco was a huge milestone. But what was even better was getting past San Francisco. And what was even better than that is that our good friends on the sailing vessel Danica, well, they made it too. Having good friends around to celebrate a big accomplishment with, well, that's just pretty great. To celebrate our big accomplishment, we picked up a tuna from a local fisherman and decided to have a little feast.
You present it.
Okay, so apparently there's a method to this.
Yeah, lightly spread the rice.
Okay. And then
We actually
After our celebrating was done,
sake would go
it was time to get back to work. On our trip south, our UV cover on our head sail got a little tattered and torn. So, Brenda turned the foredeck into her workshop and spent a few days patching and restitching the cover.
skills.
fly skills.
And while Brenda was busy fixing our sail, I had a few projects of my own. Our little Honda generator had decided it didn't want to run anymore. The carburetor had been plugged up with some bad gas. So, time to take it apart and clean it out. After just a little bit of tinkering and some fresh gas, she now runs like a top. After spending a few days repairing our sail, Brenda didn't want to have to do that again anytime soon. So up the mast I went to tape up all the rigging cotter pins. I was lucky enough to be able to do this in about 25 knots of breeze.
Might work at the top, but not here.
When we topped up with fuel in Newport, Oregon, the pressure on the dock pump was turned up so high that it actually blew apart the seal in our fuel gauge sending unit. So for the last month, we've had a slow and steady diesel leak that really stunk up the inside of the boat. We finally got the new sending unit in the mail, so it was time to swap out the old for the new and hopefully take care of our diesel leak. Once the new sending unit went in, had to strip apart the wiring harness to the engine instrument panel and wire up the new gauge. After everything was wired up, it was time to clean up the wiring harness, put the boat back together, and go have some fun. Before we left San Francisco, we ordered a couple of new folding bikes and had them delivered to Half Moon Bay. And they just happened to show up right as we were finished working on our projects. Since the bikes were brand new, we of course had to have a little race to find out who was fastest. The red one wins downhill, but unfortunately, The orange one wins uphill. But they both do pretty awesome wheelies. We've been full-time cruisers for almost 2.5 years now, and I have to say, these bikes could be the best thing we ever bought for the boat. Not only are these bikes a whole lot of fun, we can now cover a whole lot more ground.
That's right. Yeah.
The only thing we need to figure out now is how to fold these suckers up. And even though I can rebuild an engine, I just can't seem to figure out how to fold this bike in half. After spending a good 5 minutes trying to break this bike in half, Brenda came over and showed me that there's one little trick. You just gotta push a button. Well, that's it for this episode. Join us next time as I master the art of folding a bike in half and we set sail for Monterey.